The World Health Organization is urging Russia to work for peace for the sake of humanity. They announced that more than 100 health facilities in Ukraine have been attacked since the beginning of the invasion.
We will continue to supply essential health needs in Ukraine. We will continue to support the frontline health workers of Ukraine. They are the main bastion of support to the population. The health system in Ukraine has bent, but it has not broken. And there are thousands of heroes within the Ukrainian health system who have done miraculous work.
One nonprofit group that is supporting that miraculous work inside Ukraine offers more evidence that Russia has turned hospitals into targets, also ambulances they've hit as well. You see here where a building in Kyiv has been painted with red crosses trying to deter an attack, but that did not work. With me now, Rabih Torbay, President and CEO of Project Hope. Rabih, thanks for being with us. And I understand that you went to this trauma center in Kyiv and have shared some pictures. It's unimaginable what people are living through, trying to survive after. What did you see there?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Victor. I went to a trauma center in the Kyiv region, and I saw about 30 patients, many of them injured with bullet wounds, shrapnel wounds. Some of them were actually injured by unexploded ordnance or landmines. And most of them are civilians. I think 95 or 97% of them were civilians. And many of them were injured actually weeks prior to coming to the hospital, but they could not make it to Kyiv because of the war, because they could not make it from areas like Kharkiv or Irpin or Bucha. And they developed a lot of infections, gangrenes. We saw a couple of amputations as well. But one thing that was consistent was doctors and nurses and their dedication and their resilience. They've been in the hospital since the beginning of the war. They stayed there 24/7 just to help people.
We don't talk about those doctors and the nurses and even the support staff enough. I mean, of course, the attention is focused on those who are struggling to survive and have been injured by many of these weapons. But how are those doctors that you spoke with who are staying behind, who have families, many of them have left the country? How are they dealing with all of this?
I mean, it's tough. Many of them showed up at the hospital the minute the war started. I mean, a couple of them actually arrived 2 hours late and they were apologizing. And they stayed, they slept in the hospital. They left their families, their children, and everything they owned. And they moved to the hospital and they were there 24/7. They're traumatized. They've seen things that humans shouldn't see in terms of injuries, in terms of suffering, amputations, women, children. And they're coping with it. They're resilient, but you could tell that they're going through emotional distress. Their mental health is not the same, but they're doing their best, and they're committed to staying for as long as it takes to look after everybody that comes to that hospital.
Rabih, I read your report about your time in the Kyiv region, and it starts with you landing in Krakow, heading to the border, and you met an elderly woman there who was headed in the opposite direction of the millions of people who were trying to get out of the country. Share that story, if you would. I think it is something our viewers need to hear.
It was an amazing story. She was in her 80s at least, and she was walking using a cane, and somebody was helping her with her bag, and they asked us if we could help her with her bag. And of course we did. And, I was wondering, why is she going back to Ukraine when people are fleeing? And when I asked, the lady that was with her said she didn't want to die in a foreign land. And besides, she has her son. And you know what? She wants to be with her son. She does not want to leave her son. And that shows the heart of a mother, that no matter where you are, no matter where you go, it's still the same. They're still caring. They still want to look after their children. And her son is at least my age. But it didn't matter. She wanted to go back and be with her son.
And the commitment to her country. Rabih Torbay, thank you for the work you all are doing, and thank you for spending a few minutes with us.
Thank you so much, Victor.